journey so far, the times when I was extremely unwell, or even hospitalized for quite a length of time, I could not function in my spiritual role as a pastor or leader in the community because my body was failing me. So it is we're custodian of holistic custodian in that we need to realize that our community, ourselves, our body, and of course our spiritual awareness are all part of being good custodian as a human person.
So you touched on it a little bit there, this time you weren't feeling well. Of course, we have brought you here to talk about prostate cancer and the reality of a lot of men that are facing it. And you've been very open with me about your journey with prostate cancer. And I was just wondering if you could take us back to when you were first diagnosed, what led you to get checked, and what were those early days like?
Yes. Well, in fact, what happened was I do a lot of travel internationally, and I was talking to some of my colleagues, particularly in America, and they were talking about once they were advised by their clinicians that when you hit the age of 40 and so on, you should take a PSA test. And I said, what's that? Because while living here in the United Kingdom, there was no such. There was no education. There was no advice relating to that. And he said, yes, it is a test that can be done, and it's a blood test. And men of colour in particular are vulnerable to this disease and illness of the prostate. And so then once I heard that, when I returned home, I called my GP and asked for this test. I had to convince him. He said, "Well, who told you needed it?" Which was quite strange for a doctor to say to me, "Who told you needed it?" I said, "Well, don't worry about who told me, but I'm now knowledgeable of this and had no clue that it existed." And so I demanded that when we took annual checks and blood tests and so on, whole blood tests, that should be included. So that's where it all started. So I began to watch the numbers, and they just gradually were increasing. And again, even with that, I was never called by my GP initially to say, "Oh, Mr. McIntosh, we can see that there's some escalation here." I saw it and responded to it.
Yeah.
That's how it started, strangely enough.
Yeah, so I think I completely agree with the idea there's not enough open conversation about prostate cancer in the sense that a lot of men don't know what a PSA test is. I personally didn't before I got involved in this initiative to raise awareness about it. And you mentioned to me that your PSA levels are raised in the teens, so can you explain to me what that means exactly and what happened after that?
Yes, the PSA is a specific test, prostate specific antigen that is released into the bloodstream directly out of the prostate. And there's a categorization of it all. There's normal PSA numbers, 0 to perhaps 4 or 5. When it starts to go beyond that, it does not necessarily mean that you have prostate cancer, but it does mean that there's some challenges relating to the prostate. It could be that, for instance, that it's been enlarged, or even that there's an infection in the prostate. So that those numbers, the clinicians can interpret. And again, it's because I read around it, because I was concerned and was able to say to alert my doctor that I'm not happy with the margins that's there, 9, 10, 11, that level. And I said I needed for some more investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said you went for a few biopsies. And I was just wondering what that experience was like emotionally and physically, and especially after the first biopsy didn't confirm the diagnosis, what sort of pressures you was going through at that time?
Yes,
well.
yes. You see, the issue for me was having been educated regarding how important the PSA test was. I saw the escalation of the numbers. I spoke to my own GP and I said to him, I am not satisfied with the way that the PSA numbers are increasing. He said, well, there's no evidence that you're sick. I said, well, just judging primarily from the numbers and the increasing of them, I would like some further investigation. So with that, I said to him that I am demanding that you refer me on, please. So reluctantly, again, I'm talking to my own personal GP,
Yeah.
who should be concerned about my health.
It's like trying to block the whole thing.
Yeah, but he was determined to wait until, I suppose, I had other symptoms, close to death, perhaps. I don't know what it was, but anyway, I pressed, and so he said, "Well, I'm going to refer you to other clinics," and then they agreed that I should take a biopsy. The biopsy is a special investigation on any organ where they take different samples, tissue samples, and then they investigate to see whether the cells are developing healthily or benign or other things are going on, particularly cancer and so on. So initially then they did the first biopsy, and my doctor called me and told me, "Oh, Mr. McIntosh, I've got good news." So I said, "What's that?" He said, "I've got good news. You don't have cancer." So I said, "Okay." I said, "Thank you." I said, "What should I be looking for then if that's the case?" He said, "Well, your numbers are going to settle down and whatever." They didn't settle down. They just continued, into the teens now, moving up into the teens. So I called him. Again, I'm pursuing my own health here, which is sad, but of course I've got to take responsibility. So I said to him, "Look, I'm afraid I'm not happy. The numbers are going up. You are saying to me that everything is fine, but the numbers are speaking a different message for me. And I'm not going to sit and wait until it's too late for me to react. So I said, "Please, I would like to have a second biopsy." And reluctantly he agreed. At this time round, I went to a different clinic. I had a good conversation with the practitioner, with the surgeon who was going to do it. He said, effectively, the biopsies, the effectiveness of a biopsy is the amount of samples that's taken. He said, perhaps, the samples may be in the 20s, and the prostate, though small, if it's not in the right places around it, you could still miss it. So I said, "I think you've missed it. I think they've missed it in the first biopsy." So he promised me that they were going to do a thorough, comprehensive biopsy, taking close to 50 samples on that tiny little organ. And he did. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, I got the phone call that there was a diagnosis of cancer. First of all, there was a shock, and there was also a sense of resignation in that we found it. So I think there was a mixed emotion, to be honest, when I shared it with my family and extended family network. It was sad that the diagnosis was there, but since it's now factual and proven, then we had to consider what steps is yet to be taken. So I think it was a combination of both. Trepidation, when people hear of cancer, they think of death, immunity, mortality, those kind of things. I mean, that was there, but I needed to get more facts as to, is it treatable? Where is it? What, all of those things I needed to find out. And that's what the next stages led me to.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely sounds like you face this pretty much as well as anyone can face this. And just for other men out there who are afraid of getting seen because of this sort of invisibility mindset, did you feel an impact to your masculinity or your mortality when you did receive that news that you had cancer?
Well, it did affect my mortality for sure.
Yes,
No. It grounded it in reality and so on, so that was clear. But it exonerated the need to take responsibility for my own health, because thankfully it was caught at a good time. The next, and I think here it is. I could have stayed in ignorance and waited until the cancer was such a degree that there were other major symptoms. But with those major symptoms, it would have escalated the level of the cancer, where it would have gone, and the risk involved. So I think what is important for men is that their health is important, and they should read the signs of their bodies, the sign, and also, especially from this standpoint where it is just a general blood test, will identify if there's a problem. And I know sometimes the other element is, the trying to access it via the posterior. But even with that, we are talking about your health here. We're talking about ensuring that you're healthy. That's what it's a bit about. So the stigma attached to that, I think we need to, quite frankly, move beyond that and see the benefits of receiving information that you're healthy or that there's needs for some action in order to maintain your health.
Yeah, I think we should absolutely normalize the idea of men getting checked, especially men over the age of 50. If there is any men listening to this who are over the age of 50, I think it is crucial that you do get checked. And I think as men, we should sort of normalize it to the point where it's almost like changing the oil in your car or something like that, because it does affect so many of us, especially black men. It affects 1 in 4 of us. For men in general, it affects 1 in 8. And I think those numbers are incredibly high and something that should be talked about more seriously. So when obviously you got checked and the cancer was confirmed, what were some of the treatment options that were discussed with you? Yes.
So once it was confirmed, then I had a meeting with multidisciplinary consultants, and they shared with myself and my wife the possible options of surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. There was this new wind kind of blast of some kind that they were developing as well. That was a possibility. So we looked at the pros and cons of each of those, and in the end, I decided that perhaps it's best to have the prostatectomy and to have the surgery. The surgery was robotic surgery in central London. Excellent clinicians, excellent surgeons, and that's what I opted for. And in a way, I thought that would have solved the problem. But in the end, it did not completely.
Yeah, you did mention to me that things were going well after the surgery. They seemed to be going well, but then your PSA levels began to rise again. So how did you handle this almost physical relapse emotionally?
Right, that was a shock for me, to be honest, because I thought I was getting healthy. I've had the surgery. I spent some time at home. Had a catheter in and all of that. Again, one of the side effects is incontinence, urine incontinence. While I waited post-operative, that all went and became normalized, and my health returned, and it was quite mobile and so on. Strength came back, and I thought, oh, this, I'm on the move again. Until because what happened was you will still be observed in clinics once every 6 months or something like that, taking PSAs, test again to just make sure things are okay. They normally do this for 3 to 4 years to make sure everything is clear. And so gradually, from zero, there was so you got 0.0, and there was maybe 1, and 6 months later 0.02. So there's gradual, less than anywhere, but it was gradually increasing again. So I spoke to my doctor, and again went back to the oncologist and saw a couple of those together, and they did all the tests and evaluated everything, and said, oh, it's when they did the surgery, my prostate was resting close to my bladder, and they didn't want to puncture the bladder wall to give other problems, and so it looks like some of the cells of the prostate was left. I said, oh wow, okay. So that was something else now. So my issue with that now was this. I asked them, the cells that are left behind, can they do they know? Do they have any mechanism of knowing whether those cells are healthy prostate cells, benign or cancerous? And they couldn't give me any guarantee either way. So again, we had a family meeting, discussed it, and I thought I was uncomfortable to allow the cells, wherever they were, to be still growing and multiplying without knowing whether they were healthy or cancerous. So that was the problem for me at that point. And so the decision was I had to consider what other options there were. There was no option for a second surgery because they would meet the same things. So it was radiotherapy really that was left. Chemotherapy was not an option because it was too general, and they needed to target the area most specifically for me. So then I was left with just one option, which was the radiotherapy. So it was agreed that I would have radiotherapy for 6.5 weeks, with quite a reasonable high dose. Now that was traumatic for my body.
Okay. Yeah, so how did that actually affect you physically or mentally?
Oh, well, mentally I was, I guess I was quite traumatized. Physically, by the end of the 6.5 weeks, I was weak. My incontinence had come back and was terrible. The early weeks after, it was lots of unfortunate. There was a lot of diarrhea and stuff. I was lethargic. You lose loss of oomph, vitality. That level, and fatigue, mental fatigue, physical fatigue, because you couldn't do very much. Yes. So after the radiotherapy, that's all those things I felt, and that was a difficult time, for it lasted even after the radiotherapy had finished. These symptoms continued for months, and it seems like it was never going to end. But it gradually got better. The fatigue was lifted, but there's still some after effect of incontinence that I'm still dealing with, and going to different specialists to deal with. Had to do exercise, special exercise, therapy for that, physiotherapy for that, to increase and to strengthen the pelvic floor, the pelvic floor muscles, to help reduce the incontinence, working with that, and things are cancer is cleared completely. The PSA result is 0, undetectable, and has continued to be so for the last 2 years, almost 3 years now.
That is great. That's a great story about obviously coming back from having cancer to being now clean of cancer, and to it to be a level where it's undetectable now in your blood. I think that is a great thing you have been through, and I have heard radiotherapy is incredibly aggressive and is one of the hardest things someone can go through. You have the incontinence, you have the nausea, you have feeling lethargic, etc., etc. So when you're going through this sort of time, how did your faith support you when you're going through that incredibly difficult time?
Well, to be honest, there was a time I thank God that there were the faith community was there to help in prayer and community fasting. That was helpful, and continue to aid my faith, and it, coupled with going to the clinics, doing, as I said, the pelvic floor exercise on a regular basis. Remember, because your body, your muscles need to be re-strengthened and so on and so forth. So it's not, there's prayer, which we, as a praying community, we did, and not only personal and family, but also the wider church community was in prayer for me and continued to pray for me. But then there are some bits that I needed to do myself, like, discipline with the pelvic floor exercise and things like that, just to strengthen the muscles and the body. And positive thinking when I could not. Right, there were times post-operative and after the radiotherapy that cognitively you could not think clearly. It affected how you could, how your mind would focus, and things like that. But you had to realize it's a journey, and that's why I had to positively encourage myself that it's a journey, and it, over time it would improve, and it did. And obviously family members and others with positivity helps always.
Yeah, I think it's something really nice you touched on there. I think the church offering that sense of community and rigid support system, and just the nice blessing that it must have been to have people praying for you and praying over your name. I think faith in God as well gives you hope, and the idea that God walks with you through every storm is very comforting, and I think it honestly would help you through everything. So what other than them praying for you and stuff, how did the church offer a support system to you?
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, so I think realistically there were points where I couldn't even attend church services. So the leadership did everything that I would have done, supported, came round, ministered, all of those things. So that the church element of it was always there, and I think that is so crucial, to have a network of people around you, whether your immediate family or community, whichever. But I think we are not an island. We do need community to help us through our journey, whatever those challenges are. And I think I endorse every communal activities that engage other people around us. I think is holistic and helpful.
So if you got the chance to say something directly to the men that are listening now, or maybe even what you would say to the men in your church, what would you say to them about getting screened?
I say to them it's a must. And even though it's that they put a particular limit like 40 and above, I've met in my journey in clinics younger men in their 30s. So that's just a guideline, 40. I think you should be having a look at your body, and if you feel you need to earlier than that, go ahead and ask for it. It's a free test, it's a blood test. It's simple. So I think don't wait, because for me, if I had waited, I would be in tremendous problems now, and I don't know where I would be in my journey. Firstly, because once they detect the possibility, one of the first screening that they do is they check and give you a bone scan, because the prostate is just hovering over your pelvic bone, okay, and if it enlarges and it's cancerous, it's effectively resting on it. You see, so sometimes we don't quite appreciate the anatomy of the human body. But so if it enlarged and it's also cancerous, it start to gradually it could go into the bone structure of the body. So when they did that bone scan for me, I was so grateful to hear that it was contained within the prostate. You see, so early detection, monitoring of your body is so important. So go ahead, get the test, get the screening, because it's life-saving if it's caught early.
Yeah, I think you touched on it there. I think the idea of it being free almost makes it a no-brainer. I think absolutely for men, it takes more courage to get checked than to ignore it. I think people should see it almost as doing their part in the community, because we're all part of a community that cares about us and want us to take our health seriously, so we should. I think for men over 50, and like you said, for men over 40, if you do have a family history or if you are a black male, then it's crucial to get checked, because the earlier you catch it is, the better. And if you have a family history of it, it's absolutely crucial to get checked. It's not an act of weakness at all. I think it is an act of wisdom for us to get checked. And men should hold each other accountable and normalise the idea of getting checked. So how do you reckon the church can help promote health and wellness in a more active way?
Oh, what we've done and continue to do is like we have men's fellowship and men's convocation and groups and so on. I personally and others have gone to those fellowships and groups or even online and share that. And so I regularly do this, and I encourage other men who may not yet have had it or never may get it, but also to share that information, to have these leaflets from the clinics and so on, and have them available. And so that's what we have done and continue to do across our fellowship. And also to say that we had Edmund come into our ministry there at the centre, and he was able to share at our centre and one of our services regarding that. So we're on. It's an ongoing education for us, and I hope that continues across all communities.
Do you have any upcoming events or health drives or anything like that coming up?
So what we do have on a regular basis is when we have youth or men's ministry. There have been in the past elements of health involvement. So we've had diabetic conversation, we've had high blood pressure and all those kinds of risk and things like that, healthy eating, diet, especially, from Afro-Caribbean culture with the high carb, that kind of rich diet and so on. It should facilitate lot of activity and exercise and so on, looking at even portion sizes, the idea that whatever's on your plate you must finish. So I've deliberately now at home have smaller plates and I used to, things like that. It's just natural. So you eat the same things, but you just take a smaller plate, and things like that. So so ever so often we have those workshops at our church across the country, wherever our fellowship is. We advocate those as a community drive for health. Yes.
So in general, how can people connect with your church or attend your one of your services, either in person or online?
Oh, thank you for this opportunity to share this. The Abundant Life Centre, we meet there at the Highfield Community Hall on Jupiter Drive in Hemel, and it is HP2 5NU. At that centre, we meet face-to-face on Sundays from 5 p.m. onwards. We try to finish about 6:30 in the evening. So we don't have a morning service. We have an evening service from 5 p.m. through to 6:30. It's a multicultural gathering, and it is a lively engagement for our church and church community. So that's the face-to-face worship moment. However, during the week, we have online services on Zoom. We have a prayer meeting on Tuesdays online on the Zoom platform from 7:30 to 8 o'clock every Tuesday evening online for half an hour. And we have participants from around the world, the United States, Asia, Africa, who comes on that line in prayer. Then on Wednesday evening, again on the Zoom platform, we have a Bible study, an engaging Bible study from 7:30 till 8:30 on the Zoom platform again. And on that Zoom platform, again, we have an opportunity to have brothers and sisters participate from around the world. So I think what COVID has taught us, that we can reach so many more people with our hybrid services now. So people can engage with us not only face-to-face on a Sunday, but they can also participate online from around the world. Now, our evening service on Sundays are also streamed live on our YouTube channel, Abundant Life Centre. Type that in and you will get straight to us. And you can, first of all, try us online with our online live service, and then we look forward to seeing you face to face in one of our services.
So, just to wrap up the sort of meeting, you've been through so much with your cancer. Obviously, I think it's one of the hardest things for people to go through. And meeting you seem like such a kind, loving person. I can tell you really do have a heart of gold. So I was just wondering, what through this process has given you hope, and what has helped you to stay planted in yourself and come out the other side and continue to still serve others?
Well, yes, I think first of all the diagnosis was heavy, but from a pragmatic standpoint for me, it is that my Christian faith is not just about merely living now, but there's also hope through Christ. So, but I understand from Scripture that we are mortal. Yes, that one day we will pass from this life with Christ beyond. So I think both of those things had to come to play, and connected themselves first with the diagnosis. Oh Lord, I'm a young man, quote unquote. But you and I have passed with an illness, so so there's that part. So it's pragmatism, isn't it? And understanding for me that God gives the clinician the wisdom and the knowledge to deal with the human body. Oh, yes, I think all knowledge comes from him for his omniscience. He is the creator of all things. The information, the knowledge in medicine or other knowledge is a gift from him. So I trust the medical profession as well as I trust faith. Together they work and produce miracles. So I think when that happened, I had to dig deep, honestly. I had to dig deep on a number of occasions when I was been hospitalized and going through the things. And the faith community allowed me to remain positive as I am today. Still serving the community in many ways. And I'm grateful and appreciative of that.
Alrighty, Pastor Caleb, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. Your faith and your perseverance through everything. It's a powerful story, and it's a really important reminder for all men in our community to be vigilant about their health and get checked regularly. To everyone listening, prostate cancer is more treatable when caught early. So please, if you're a man over 50 or over 40, if you have a family history, speak to a doctor and consider having a PSA test, as it could save your life. To connect with Pastor Caleb to learn more about the community at Abundant Life in Highfield. In Highfield, you're warmly invited to their Sunday service at 5 p.m, 7:30 a.m. The address of the postcode of the church is HB25. So that's the Abundant Life Church in Highfield, Hemel, Hempstead, HB25. If you would like more information or like to contact with us directly, email us at radiodecorum@gmail.com. So once again, a huge thank you for Pastor Caleb for joining us today and for shedding light on a subject we all need to talk more openly about. So men out there, stay well, stay checked, and look after yourself and loved ones. Thank you so much for coming down today.